us through. But since when has impossible ever stopped you? Friday's disappointment, Sunday's empty tomb. Since when has impossible ever stopped you? This is the sound of dry bones rattling. This is the praise, make a dead man walk again. Open the grave, I'm coming out. I'm gonna live again. This is the sound of dry bones rattling.
Hello, KAC. My name is Danielle Johnson. It is my privilege to get to welcome you here this weekend. First things first, if you are new or even new-ish to Kamloops Alliance Church, would you text the word new to the number on the screen? We are just so grateful that you have joined us, and to say thank you for doing so, we would love to send you a coffee shop gift card so that you can enjoy a beverage on us. We are making every effort to keep you up to date on everything happening at KAC. And in doing so, we send out a weekly text message complete with important details and important events so that you have everything that you need right at your fingertips. If you'd like to receive that message and you don't already, text the word connect to the number on the screen and we will be sure to add you to the list. I've said it before and I will say it again, we are committed to providing you opportunities to grow in your faith, serve your community, and connect with others. And there are countless ways for you to do so here at KC. The list on the screen shows you all the ways that you can get involved, but I just want to highlight a few of them for us. First, we want to play our part in building bridges between non-Indigenous and Indigenous people so that we can work together for a brighter future. And we believe a large part of that is, as a church, being good listeners and good learners. And so the KAC Indigenous Connections team is hosting a Secwepemc education workshop on Saturday, February 25th. Bernice Jensen will be here from the Kamloops Aboriginal Friendship Society teaching on the Secwepemc people, their history and traditions and culture. And so everyone is welcome, but we do ask that you sign up. So you can go to kac.ca/events and you'll find everything that you need there. We believe resolutely in the transforming work and power of Jesus in our lives. That as we die to an old way of living, Jesus comes and makes us new. He comes and produces life in us. And baptism is really just a picture of that reality, an outward expression of what is happening internally, that we are made new and we are being made new in Jesus. And so if you've been considering baptism or you're even remotely interested, I want to encourage you just to listen to that stirring in your heart and join us for the baptism information session. You will not have to sign on the dotted line. This is an opportunity for you to ask questions and learn more. So that'll be Sunday, February 26th at 11 a.m. in the Fireside Room. A couple of weekends ago, we learned about revival, how revival, simply put, is God moving towards his people and his people moving towards him. And in every movement of God, what we see is a holy hunger, a holy desire stirring up in a group of people who long to see God come and manifest himself in their midst. And they long to experience his transforming power at work in their lives and in their families and in their church and their city and their world. And Revive, our prayer and worship night, this is the heart of Revive, our prayer and worship gathering. Revive was designed and created for people who say, you know what, I don't know what this looks like, but what I think we need more than anything, what I think I need, what this church needs, and what our city needs more than anything is a fresh encounter with the manifest presence of God. And so we want to invite you to join us Sunday, February 26th at 6:30 p.m. to come and pursue God in worship and prayer. We want to thank you for your continued generosity. Your contributions are what enable us to carry out the day-to-day activities of the church, to keeping the lights on, to keeping a roof over our heads, to subsidizing really important programs like Genesis and Grief Share. And it's your generosity that bears witness to the generosity of God as you seek to love this church and this city and this world through the act of sacrificial giving. And so if you don't already give at KC and you'd like to learn more, you can learn more about how to give at KC on our website at kac.ca/give. You can also reach out personally to our finance team at finance@kac.ca. So again, thank you for joining us this weekend. I'm excited. We are launching a new sermon series this weekend called The Story. So get ready to explore and find your place in the narrative of Scripture.
Through every battle, through every heartbreak, through every circumstance, I believe that you are my fortress, you are my portion, you are my hiding place. I believe that you And you meet me here today with mercies that I knew. All my fears and doubts, they can all come to, because they can't stay long when I'm here with you. It's a new horizon, and I'm set on you. And you meet me here today with mercies that I knew. All my fears and doubts, they can all come to, because they can't stay long when I believe that you are the way, the truth, the life. I believe that you are the way, oh, the truth, the life. 'Cause I believe that you are. It's a new horizon, and I'm set on you. And you meet me here today with mercies that I knew. All my fears and doubts, they can all come to, because they can't stay long when I believe that you are the way, the truth, the life. I believe that you are.
My hope is built on nothing less than Jesus' blood and righteousness. I dare not trust the sweetest frame, but wholly trust in Jesus' name. Christ alone, cornerstone, the weak made strong in a Savior's love through the storm. He is Lord, the Lord of all.
When darkness seems to hide his face, I rest on his unchanging grace. In every high and stormy gale, my anchor holds within the veil. My anchor holds within the veil.
Christ
Alone, cornerstone, weak made strong in the Savior's love through the storm. He is Lord, Lord of all.
When he shall come with trumpet sound, oh, may I then in him be found, dressed in his righteousness alone, and fathers stand before the throne. The fathers stand before the throne.
You are and I will build my life upon your love. It is a firm foundation, and I will put my trust in you alone, and I will not be shaken. I will build my life upon your love. It is a firm foundation. I will put my trust in you alone, and I will not be shaken. Yes, I will build my life upon your love. It is a firm foundation, and I will put my trust in you alone, and I will not be shaken. Cornerstone, weak made strong in the Savior's love. Through the storm, He is Lord, Christ alone. Cornerstone, weak made strong in the Savior's love. Through the storm, He is Lord, Lord alone.
A few weeks ago, my wife and I watched the Jason Bourne trilogy. Now, that reference may be lost on you, but Jason Bourne was a series of movies released in the early 2000s. Jason Bourne's a fictional character played by Matt Damon. It's a kind of a shoot-'em-up, car chase type movie. If you don't like it, don't watch it. But we loved it, and after the first movie, we're like, why? What's Treadstone? And why did that person die off and that person's still alive? What's going on? And what we realized is that we actually started not with movie 1, but with movie 2 out of the 3. And so we actually watched movie 2, 3, and then back to 1. It was very, very strange. And we realized, oh my goodness, no wonder we were so confused, because we didn't get the whole picture. I think so much of us are the same with Christianity. We kind of enter halfway into the story. We got Jesus, the kingdom of God, but then we hear things like about Israel and how does that fit in? So the next 6 weeks, we're doing a series called The Story, and we're doing the Bible in 6 acts. And today we're starting with the first act, which is creation. There's a philosopher, his name is Alistair McIntyre, in his book, After Virtue. Here's what he says: I can only answer the question, what am I to do, if I can answer the prior question of what story or stories do I find myself a part. Really interesting insight, because here's what he's saying. I need to understand, in order to understand what I should do next, I first need to understand what story defines my life. What is the narrative that I actually base my decisions on? So I've showed you this before, but I think it's helpful. We often, when we talk about change, when we talk about moving forward, we often talk about the values, the ethics, kind of the outward behavior. But actually what we need to first understand is, what is the defining story of my life? Because I live out of my story, that my identity, convictions, values, ethics, morals, and actions flow from the defining story of my life. And so everybody tuning in this weekend, you have a story that defines your life. In order to know what you need to do, what I want to do is I want to locate you, maybe not in the defining story of your life, but in the biblical story. I believe that Christianity offers such a beautiful story to find yourself a part that doesn't just save us, which it does. It doesn't just help us, giving us resources. It actually helps us define what we need to do next. So you find yourself in a story, you need to identify that and then actually figure out what is your location in the biblical story. So the problem right now is, as modern people, we look back at the past with derision. We look back at the past and we want to cancel it because we as Westerners, we've moved past that. We kind of turn our noses up at the people that have gone before us. But the problem with that is that we don't learn who we are and what story we are a part of. So there is a huge boom right now with websites like Ancestry.com. And what it is you're trying to find out, who have I come from? What story has defined my family? And so people give DNA samples. They send it into Ancestry.com and you get a printout of where you've come from. We know intrinsically that the past helps us define where we've come from, who we are, and what story has defined our families and our lives. I want to just push that further back. I want to go to the biblical story and locate you and us in this amazing invitation to be a part of a better and more beautiful story. So to do that, we're going to start with Genesis chapter 1 this weekend, the first book of the Bible, the first chapter, the first words of the Bible. But first, I want to ask, when we are reading Genesis 1, what are we reading? Okay, so I need to do some work here because we come into Genesis chapter 1, the first chapter of the Bible, with some baggage. Okay, so I've noticed there's two types of travelers. Those who never want to check a bag, right? You just want that carry-on in the overhead compartment so you can leave quickly. You pack really lightly. There's other people who bring the whole house. You might as well just put the whole house on the trailer and bring it with you wherever you go. There's light packers and then there's heavy packers with a lot of baggage. My friends, Genesis 1 is not a light packer type text. It's a heavy baggage. We all bring some stuff to Genesis 1. So let me address a few things right now. There's three main views when it comes to Genesis chapter 1. If you're new to Christianity, this may be helpful for you. There's three main views that we bring into Genesis 1. There's always derivatives, there's always spin-offs, but here's the three main ones. The first one is that some people think, based on Genesis chapter 1, the interpretation of the days of Genesis 1, the genealogies given to us in the scriptures, that the earth is 6,000 to 10,000 years old, and we would call those young earth creationists. There's another view, old earth creationists, that would say, oh, no. Actually, the Bible is not speaking to the timeline. The days, actually in the Hebrew, is an indefinite period of time. There seems to be an indefinite period of time before God actually started to create. So they'd be old earth. And so with carbon dating of the earth and some other resources, they would land that the earth is actually 13 billion years old. Then there's a third view of Genesis 1 called the functional view. People like John Walton, the Old Testament scholar, have this view. And they actually say it's not about the days, it's not about the time, it's actually a function. They call it the temple imagery. And so basically they look at Genesis 1 and 2 as kind of like you get a new computer from Apple, you set that up, you plug in all the things, you plug it in, and you turn it on, and then it works. That's the view, kind of the functional view that Walton and others bring. So there's three main views. Let me just say, you can bring whatever view you have into this conversation. We welcome it. We don't want to shame anybody for having any of these views. That one person would say, well, you don't believe that the Bible's inerrant. The other people would say, well, you don't believe in science. The other people say you're not reading it right. We're not playing those games. We're not sectarian at our church. You can bring all those views and you can hold those views. Believe me, I have my view. I'm not going to tell you, but I have my view about how this actually should be read. If you're interested more, I had a great conversation with a former professor of mine, Dr. Tim Sansbury, on science and faith in our podcast series. So check that out. Our Science and Faith at Odds, you can check that out. So I want to release attention. And so we need to differentiate, before we come to this, between the difference between load-bearing walls and non-load-bearing walls. If you're in construction, you know this image. That there are some walls in your house you cannot remove because it holds up the entire rest of the house. Some doctrines, some texts are like that in Christianity. Load-bearing wall Christianity would be the resurrection of Jesus Christ. If he didn't resurrect, the whole thing tumbles down. The inerrancy of Scripture, there's a lot more. There's load-bearing doctrines, load-bearing texts. Then there's non-load-bearing ones. You can remove that wall, the whole thing still stands. let me just tell you, Genesis 1 and your interpretation of it, whether it's old earth, new earth, functional view, whether it's Big Bang theory, whether it's theistic evolution, whatever it is, this is not a load-bearing wall. This is what Romans 14 talks about when Paul says there are some disputable matters. All right, so even the New Testament talks about load-bearing and non-load-bearing walls. You can also identify it as closed-handed issues and open-handed issues. This is an open-handed issue. So, like I said, we're not sectarian at our church. We don't want to promote a false dichotomy because whatever view you hold, please do not promote a false dichotomy that you have to believe that the earth is X amount of years old in order to love Jesus. I have talked with young adults who grew up in very sectarian environments that a false dichotomy was given. You either have to believe that the earth is X years old or else you're out. My friends, this is not a load-bearing wall. This is a disputable matter. You can hold different interpretations. We have some church fathers in the first few hundred centuries of the church holding very different views about the interpretation of Genesis chapter 1. Let's not promote false dichotomies. You can follow Jesus and hold to these views thoughtfully. I don't have more time, but I'll leave it at that. So here's what we know about Genesis 1 and 2. Regardless of what view you hold, here's what we know. Genesis chapter 1 is not a post-Enlightenment, scientific, Western answer to the hows of creation. Everybody can agree on that. It was not written post-Enlightenment for Western people answering the hows of creation. It is not that. Now, when I say that, I am not at all talking about that the scriptures are not authoritative. They are. But this text is not that thing. Everybody, no matter what view you hold, will affirm that view. Now, you could say it says something about the creation and the days for sure, but this is not written to a post-Enlightenment Western person asking the hows of creation. What it is for sure a beautifully crafted Hebrew poem. For sure, that's what it is, okay? That is authoritative in answering the question of human origins, okay? Let me say that again. What we know for sure, it is a beautifully crafted Hebrew poem that is authoritative for answering the question of human origins. Who is God? Who are humans? What is the earth? Authoritative, okay? But that's what we know for sure. It's a Hebrew poem. And that this Hebrew poem was written, we think, by Moses to remind the people of Israel after they were liberated from Pharaoh about who is the God that has saved them. And this account of the origins of the earth and of humans is in contrast to the other foreign nations of the time in the ancient Near East, where they saw the world as being brought about through conflict and chaos, through the wars between gods and the pantheon. No. Moses, we believe, writes this to show, no, there's no conflict, there is no wars, or there's no incest in these pagan other origin myths. Actually, this is the way and this is the God who has created the world. So I lean on Michael Lodell in his book, The Story of God. This proclamation that God is creator of everything is, in fact, the fundamental message of Genesis 1. Are there other messages? Sure, you can hold on to that. But this is commonly accepted that the fundamental message of Genesis 1 is that God is creator. In other words, the creation account is making a theological point. Listen to that. It's making a theological point. Can you think it's making other points? Yes, but at the foundation of this, it's a theological point. Okay. Longest intro in the world, but we needed to do that work in order to make this make sense. Here's what we're doing. Who is God? What is the earth? Who are man and woman? That is what we're looking at because these are the pivotal plot lines in the story of the Bible and the story of Christianity. Let's start with who is God. Here's how it begins. In the beginning, God. In the beginning, God. We need to stop 4 words in. In the beginning, God. Here is what we know that the author, we think Moses, is saying. God here is the word Elohim, and this Hebrew moniker title for God shows that God is transcendent over his creation, that this is a God who is limitless in power, faces no opposition, has always been. There is no creator of the creator. He has simply always been. He is not in the creation. He stands apart and over creation. So the Christian story first starts out by saying, yes, there is a God. There is a God. We're going to talk about that in a few minutes. But yes, the huge plot line of the Christian story is that there is a God. And this God is the creator God. Now, how he created, you can talk about that, whether it's evolution, the Big Bang, whether he just spoke things into existence. We can talk and discuss all about those important things. But the fundamental message, again, is that God is the starting point. He is the unmoved mover. He is the one who has brought these things into existence. And so here's a way to understand this. This is from a theologian, Cornelius Van Til. Here is what he says. This idea that God is Elohim, that he is above creation, that he is Father, Son, and Spirit, the one who has always been, the fellowship of God, co-equal and co-eternal, stands apart from the created order. He has relationship with the created order. He is knowable, but he is not in the creation. This is an important distinction in the starting point of the Christian story, that if you don't get this, the whole thing doesn't make sense. If you don't get this idea, the whole thing just does not make sense. Because the Christian theory of reality is that there is a God and he is distinct from his creation. He is apart from it. And basically what this is saying, and I don't mean to be offensive, is that there is a God and you are not him. That's simply what this says. In the beginning was God, not you. That in the beginning, God created, distinct from his creation. This stands apart from the prevailing view of our world. Because here's our world. We don't have two circles. We have one circle. And in one circle, sure, there's God. And sure, there's maybe a person of Satan, or maybe there's a person of Buddha. And in this one circle is our life, is maybe sex, it's eating tacos, it's playing soccer, it's thinking about evil, it's thinking about New Year's Eve parties, New Year's Eve parties, it's thinking about travel, that God is a part of, not distinct from, but God is a part of it. So you can add in all these different things: hockey, wine, death, evil, God, tears, divorce, sex, everything. Maybe Jesus, he's a part of this. And this is our natural way to view the world, that God is just a part of kind of the whole thing. No, the first 4 words of the Bible say he's not a part of this. In other words, it's not up to you and I to be able to decide, well, maybe we like him, maybe we don't. Maybe he fits, maybe he doesn't. It's not up to us to put up our hands and say, yeah, but what about? Actually, this is the fundamental reality, that there is God, Elohim, apart, transcendent from his creation. And so what this means is that God is not just a bigger version of us. He is not just a bigger, more powerful version of us. God is everything. In the beginning, Elohim, he has done something. And what has he done? He has created. This is the Hebrew word bara. And this again talks about this intelligent wisdom behind the creation of the universe. What this says is that existence is a gift. In the beginning, God created. He chose to create. In a sense, your existence, the existence of the cosmos, the universe, is not a necessary thing. Why? Because God chose it. Me giving a chocolate bar to my child is not a necessary thing. I choose to do it. Out of my benevolence, I choose to do it. This is what the first 5 words of the Bible are saying. In the beginning, God. That existence, your existence, is a gift, that you are indebted to this God. Genesis 2, he breathes into humanity. That this, my friends, reminds us that existence is a gift. And what did he do? He created the heavens and the earth. This is a Hebrew way of saying the heavens are the furthest thing up there. The earth is the furthest thing down here. And it's all the things in between, the furthest and the highest and the lowest. All things have been created. What this is saying is the cosmos, the universe, has been spoken into existence by the intelligence and wisdom of a God who is not created, who has always been. There's so much more than I can say. But as we think about the Christian story, this is the beginning. The two circles, not the one. Now, we got to ask then, what is the world that he created? Well, let's do some work here. It says in verse 2, now the earth was formless and empty. I love, it's such a fun way to say this in the Hebrew. It is tohu wabahu. Wabahu. Tohu wabahu, formless and empty. It's actually saying in the original language that this is uninhabitable space. It's chaotic. There's nowhere or no way that life could actually exist. There is no left or right or up or down or good and bad. There is no joy and sorrow. This is formless and empty, and it is utter chaos. This was the pre-existent world before this creator, who is Elohim, spoke it into existence. And what he did is he says, darkness was over the surface of the deep, and the Spirit of God was hovering above the waters. There is this beautiful image that this poem is giving us, an authoritative account of human origins, that God created these things, and the Spirit of God was about to do something. In verse 3, here's what happens. And God said, boom, an explosion of light into the chaos, into the uninhabitable space. This God who is good starts to do something. And God said, let there be light, and there was light. From darkness erupts light. He says, God saw that the light was good, and he separated the light from the darkness. God called the light day, and the darkness he called night. And there was evening, and there was morning, the first day. And this is the poem now, the beautifully crafted poem at work, because now the days are introduced. A function given to the world to separate and order. That there was morning and there was evening, the first day. There was morning and there was evening. And that God said it was good. And God said, let there be. And this is now all the way to verse 25, the creation of the world in 6 days. Now again, you can interpret the days however you want, but this is what we are given. Let there be light, and there was light. So here's a good way to understand the next few verses all the way till the end of chapter 1. You have here the forming and the filling that God does in his creative act. What is the world? The world is ordered. That's my first idea. The world is ordered. That on day 1, he makes light. On day 4, he makes lights, the stars, the moon. On day 2, he makes the firmament, the hard ground and sky. And then he inhabits that with birds and fish. On day 3, he makes a dry land. There's vegetation. And then there's land animals and human beings. He forms them day 1, and then he fills it on day 4. He forms it on day 2. He fills it in day 5, and so on and so forth. And this is the order that we see in creation, that there is rhythm, that there is pattern to the world. And as God is naming and forming and filling, he is exercising his sovereign right over his creation. So it'd be the same as you buy a new house and you go in before any of the furniture is moved in. You want to alter the house for your needs. So you go to the bedroom. At least that's what it was used by the previous owners. And you go to the bedroom, you say, no, that's not a bedroom. That actually now is an office. And you go to the den, and the den's big enough for a room. So the family before used it as a den. You say, no, that actually is a bedroom. And so you functionally change and alter the definitions of something, you name it, and then you fill it with the appropriate furniture. That's what God is doing here. He's exercising the sovereign right to form and to fill. This is what that is for. This is the kitchen. That's a den. That's a TV room. This is what he's doing, and he's filling it with his creation. And this is not happening by chance or time. It's happening because of the intelligent creator God. So the world that you live in is ordered, and it is perfect for human life, for your existence and my existence, for the raccoon that lives in your neighborhood and the bear that you see on your hike. It's a little scary, but this world is perfectly ordered for existence. And so, like I mentioned, one of the plot lines of Christianity is that there is a God. He does exist. There is a God. So some people say, prove it. I've never seen him. Prove it. Here's the thing. We probably can't prove it in the way that you want it to be proved because we like certainty. And so we want proofs like 2 + 2 = 4. You know what? Honestly, there is no proof for the existence of God in that way, that 2 + 2 = 4. So there is no proof for that. But also, you cannot prove that there isn't a God either. It's not a question of demonstrable proof, like 2 + 2 = 4. There is nothing that you can say to prove God's existence, and there's nothing definable and completely irrefutable that he doesn't exist, because it's not a question of science. It's not a question. It's a question of what we call metaphysics. It's a philosophical question. Is there a God? So you can't prove it or disprove it. But I do believe if you are curious and humble and inquisitive, I think there are very good reasons to believe that God indeed does exist. I could rattle a few off: the moral argument, the cosmological argument that something exists. Why does something exist rather than nothing? Well, because there is a God who has the first mover, all of those sorts of things. But I think we arrive here at another reason why I think God exists, is because the world is ordered, and it's ordered perfectly for your existence and my existence. We know as human beings that there are laws that govern the universe, that gravity is true and it will always be true no matter where you are, that if I put my Bible up and I put it on my desk, that it's going to fall. Why? Because it's ordered. We know that it will always be. That the ideas of physics, when you go up into an airplane 40,000 feet, that I can do that yesterday and I can do that today and I can do that tomorrow and nothing is going to change, that this world is perfectly ordered for human existence. So we have to ask, why is that the case? That your existence and my existence is, this world is perfectly made for it. Well, there's different reasons. Again, it's not irrefutable that this now says, well, because there's an intelligent designer and God is that, then God exists. No, but we have to ask, why is this the case? Is it because it's just necessary for human life? That's what some people say, that the world is designed the way it is just because of necessity. Some people say it's because of chance. Perhaps. I believe that it's because of a designer, of somebody, of a God who exists not in the creation but distinct from it, who has spoken it into existence in his wisdom and in his goodness. Okay, so the world, what is the world? First, it's ordered. Second, the world is good. There's so many things that I could say, but I had to cut a lot. So here's what it says, Genesis 1:9. And God said, let the water under the sky be gathered to one place and let dry ground appear. And it was so. God called the dry ground land, and he gathered the waters he called seas. And God saw that it was good. This is the first of 5 times in this text where God talks about the creation being good, that he blesses it. And he says, and he brings goodness to the world. This goodness means that this is beneficial. It is desirous, that this world is a good thing. Now, this doesn't mean that the world is, and the creation is divine. In other words, we don't worship the things of the created order. We appreciate their beauty. We respect their sacredness, but we do not worship an eagle or a bear or anything of the created order. Again, they are made beautiful and good. They are sacred. They are set apart, but they are not divine. What I mean by that is we should take care of God's good world. We should ensure that species don't go extinct, but we do not worship the created order. It is good, but it is not divine in itself. Ian Provan, in his book called Seriously Dangerous Religion, he says this: on the contrary, and what he's doing is he's contrasting a lot of other worldviews that say either the world is divine and we need to worship it, or the world is not good. He says, on the contrary, in biblical faith, the world is a wonderful place, created in such a way as to be exactly the right place, a good and beautiful place, for the flourishing of the creatures, personal and otherwise, who have been created by the one who is personal. It is a good and beautiful place. This is an important plot line, that the world is good and God blesses it. And this world has been created by the one who is personal. In other words, you can get to know this God. He is not an object like my glass of water who you can't get to know, that this God is relational. and he is personal. So a few years ago, we went to Victoria as a family. Krista's aunt, my aunt now through marriage, is an artist in Victoria. Her name's Nancy. And Nancy put on an art show. And it was so fun to go over to the island, and she rented out a gallery. She worked so hard for a few years, and all of her friends and family and the neighborhood really came to honor the art. And so we went into the art gallery, got to see these beautiful works and abstract works and beautiful birds and pianos. It was just so much fun to appreciate the art. But I'll tell you what was better, is that I could actually call Nancy over and say, tell me about the art. In other words, I could know the artist. I could know the one who made this piece, and could ask her, what does it mean? What was your intent? In other words, I can know something about the artist through the art, and I can also know the artist. This, my friends, is great news. It's great news that you can be in relationship with the artist. And what Genesis 1 is doing is saying, let me introduce you to the artist of this world that you live in that is beautiful and good and ordered. Let me introduce you to him. That, my friends, is what the world is. And finally, what are man and woman? Who are man and woman? At the end of chapter 1, in verse 27, God does something different. This, my friends, is the pinnacle of the story. Of all of the created order, something new is happening, because it says, so God created mankind in his own image. In the image of God, he created them. So who are man and woman? The first thing is that they are made in the image of God, and this separates them from the rest of the creation. The rest of the creation is good. But what God says after this moment about his humans is that they are very good. Not as a realization, oh my goodness, that was amazing. No. He says, this is good. Ontologically, they are good things. And humans, he says, are very good. Why? Because they're made in the image of God. This word in the original language is the word salem. And basically, there's a lot of different work throughout church history about what does it mean to be made in the image of God. Some people say it's the consciousness that we have. It's a capacity that we have. Wherever you land, here is the bottom line. That every single person, no matter their intellectual or physical abilities, no matter when or where they were born, no matter how much money or not they had or have, every single person is imbued with, given dignity, honor, and beauty. Because all of us, as we're acting, thinking, working, talking, loving, are imaging God. So here's what Christianity says. At the same time, you are like God. There's no other animals, there's nothing else in the created order that images God. Only you and I do. So we are like him, bestowed with relationship capabilities, bestowed and the responsibility of given to love and desire, what you will prize and what you won't. Unlike anything else, we love your dog or cat, but they are not like you. You are made in the image of God. You are like God, imaging him, connected to him at all times because he has given you breath and life and you're made in his image. You are like God, but you are not God at the same time because he is distinct from you. You are not God. You are made in his image, but you are not God. But this is a fundamental plot line in the Christian story, that you are made by God and for God because you're made in his image. And this idea has changed the world, that every single person is worthy of respect, dignity, and honor because you're made in his image. We in the West just take this as an assumption that everybody operates by. It's not true. Right now, the conversation in our culture is about equality. It's about human rights. It's about all these things. And Christianity was the worldview that gave the world this idea that every single person is worthy. So it doesn't matter. If you are a Dalit in India, the lowest caste member of the society, you are worthy of respect, dignity, and honor. It doesn't matter if you are the richest, everybody here is the same. So Luc Ferry, he's a French atheist philosopher. He wrote a book called A Brief History of Thought. He has an entire chapter given to Christianity's contribution in the idea of thought. And he's very, very sympathetic and honoring, actually, ironically, of this idea. Here's what Ferry says. In direct contradiction, Christianity was to introduce the notion that humanity was fundamentally identical, that men and women were equal in dignity, identical. He says no other worldview gave this. No worldview from Mesopotamia, ancient Mesopotamia, no worldview from the Greek paganism, no worldview anywhere gave this idea. He says, an unprecedented idea at the time, and one to which our world owes its entire democratic inheritance. Think about that. He says, but this notion of equality did not come from nowhere. This is Christianity's contribution to the world. So you may not be a Christian, you may not be seeking, but if you hold to the idea of human rights and value and dignity for every single person, no matter who they love, no matter their skin color, you are borrowing from Christianity. Who are man and woman? They're made in the image of God. What else? What else? Not only that, but he created them male and female. So the first thing, who are man and woman? They are first made in the image of God. Second, they are made male and female. He created them. In the original language, that these people, these humans are similar. They are made from a similar substance, but they are distinct. That we are humans, but these people, male and female, are actually distinct. And this is the whole flow of Genesis chapter 1, because what is he doing? He's separating. There is sea and there is land. There is sky and there is land. He is separating these things, distinct, making them distinct. They're opposites until he comes to the humans. And these humans are made from the same substance, but he separates them. There's male and there are females. And this is the goodness and givenness of the world. Because we do not operate, breathe into existence our own realities, there is a givenness to the world from this God. There's a givenness to my hair color, a givenness to my stature, a givenness to my eye color, a givenness to my gender, male and female. This is a huge topic right now in our culture, and I want to be very careful not to be insensitive and not to be declarative on some things. But here's what I think Genesis 1 is saying, is that being male and female, you're made in the image of God. And that is a good thing. It's a good thing. So there's somebody here, her name is Abigail Favali. Favali was trained in liberal gender studies, really was a nominal Christian, if that, and went into the world of this secular idea of gender. And she actually taught a lot of stuff from a female thinker named Judith Butler, and really influential thinkers when it comes to our current moment. She converted to Catholicism, which is interesting. There's a story there, obviously. And now she wrote a book called The Genesis of Gender, thinking about loving, thinking about Genesis and this idea of gender. So here's what Favali says. She says, in direct contradiction, she says, Genesis, in contrast, uniquely foregrounds the importance of the male-female relationship, and this is a relationship not of domination. That is important. Through history, we've seen the domination. We're going to talk about sin and how this has gone wrong next week, but not of domination, but of reciprocity. There is no hierarchy of value, no dynamic of superiority and inferiority. She says sexual difference is not a mishap, but cause for celebration and wonder. Why? This difference is good. Our bodies are good, and both of these are an integral part of the created order, which is good. Good. Everything is good. The physical is good. Male and female, your body is good. It is good. Who are man and woman? They are made male and female, and this is a good thing. Every single one of us, because of what happens in Genesis chapter 3, now is dealt the idea that our bodies are not good. So every single one of us tuning in has something wrong that we wish our bodies would be different. We wish we were taller, thinner, wider. We wish our hair was curly when it's straight. We look at ourselves when we get out of the shower in the mirror, and we sigh, we groan. So we wish we were made different. For some of us, our bodies aren't even working. Like we're feeling the disintegration of our body. For others in our society right now, it's not just that they look in the mirror and they don't like this part of their body, they don't like the whole thing. That they have a dysphoria when it comes to, they just feel like they're the wrong gender. There's so much more to say and so much more that we're going to say. But regardless of whether you have just a body insecurity or whether you have this dysphoria that you just feel like you're in the wrong body, I think we need to stop and we need to ask God, what do you think of me? What do you think of this body? What do you think of my existence? And his answer, clear answer, is that it is good. It is beneficial. It is fundamentally a good thing, which I think we need to hear in our culture. I think about the teenage girls maybe tuning into this. I have a daughter who's 9, and you are given such clear parameters on what beauty is and how your body should look and how you should act and how you should whatever. I want to say it is good. Your body is good. It doesn't need to be altered or changed. You need to steward it like everybody else. But it is a good thing. And we need to hear more clearly that voice than ever before. That we all have some sort of hate on our body. But Genesis 1 says it is a good thing. The physical is a good thing. And it's given to us. At the end, he says, God blessed them and said, be fruitful and increase in number, fill the earth. So be fruitful, increase, fill, subdue, rule. This is what God is saying, that you as male and female with the image, you need to go out, you need to make families, you need to make dinners, you need to make tacos, amen to tacos. You need to go make music, you need to go make art, you need to go make businesses, that this is a cultural mandate to go and steward all these things, be vice regents for me, continuing to create order and culture and beauty. And so at the end of this, who are man and woman? We are first and fundamentally in relationship with God. We do not breathe our own existence. God, we are in relationship to ourselves, that we have a psychology, an interaction with our internal world, that we have interactions and relationship with human beings, and we have interaction and relationship with the world. That what does it mean to be man and woman made in the image of God? That we are people fundamentally made by relationship, by Father, Son, and Spirit, and for relationship with God, with ourselves, with each other, and with the world that God has given us to steward. This is what it means to be a man and woman, and the big plot line of the story. So, question is, as we end, what is the central story that defines your life? There is some story. Maybe the story that defines your life is that of addiction. Your dad was an alcoholic. Your grandpa was an alcoholic. I'm an alcoholic. Maybe the story that defines your life is divorce. Maybe the story that defines your life right now is a real hate and insecurity about your body. Maybe the story that defines your life right now is suffering. Maybe the story that defines your life is another religion like Islam or Buddhism, and it really is determining a lot of what you're experiencing right now. What is the central story of your life? Because everything flows from that. I want to review. Here's what I think Christianity offers you, part 1, act 1 of the story. Number 1, you are made by God and for God. You are not the author of reality, and that's not supposed to be an insult. It's supposed to be freeing. That perhaps some of the anxiety that you feel in your life is because you have tried to play the role of sovereign, of God, to be in control. You were never meant to be that. Number 2, you live in a beautiful, ordered, good world that you are asked to steward and to take care of. Not to take from, but to take care of this beautiful world that God has given. And that your job is to get to know the artist by looking at the paintings. And number 3, you are made with dignity, value, and purpose. You do not arise from cosmic primordial soup that won the time and chance sweepstakes. That God has bestowed and breathed in you life and purpose, and you are of great worth to Him. You're made for Him. This is where we start. I hope this sets us up for next week, because some of the things I said today are like, this is crazy. I don't feel any of that. Because the Christian story turns and gives us an account of why there is this insecurity, brokenness, addiction, why there are earthquakes, why there are this broken reality. We're going to tackle that next week. But to end, I want to leave you with this. It's from an author, journalist in the early 20th century. Here's what she says. For we are all of us, from birth to death, guests at a table which we did not spread. The sun, the earth, love, friends, our very breath are parts of the banquet. Shall we think of the day as a chance to come nearer to our host and to find out something of him who has fed us for so long? Reach out. God, thank you for this truth that you are good and trustworthy, that you invite us into this story. Lord, for some of us, we just believe that our story right now is just one of hopelessness, one of grief and loss, one of decline. And it's determining so much of our lives, our mental health. And we're caught up in negative scripts, Lord, that just grip us and deter us from true life and hope. And yet here we are introduced to who you are, a good God, distinct from creation, who has breathed life into this ordered, beautiful world, that we would know you and live for you. So Lord, I pray that we would start to correct the story that's defining us now and reach out to you this week. In your name I pray. Amen. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Sunshine. 'Cause you don't give your heart in pieces. You don't hide yourself to tease us. Uncontrolled, uncontained, your love is a fire burning bright for me. It's not just a spark, it's not just a flame. Your love is a light that all the world will see. All the world will see. You don't give your heart in pieces. You don't hide yourself to tease us. You don't give your heart in pieces. You don't hide yourself to tease us. Your love's not fractured, it's not a troubled mind. It isn't anxious, it's not the restless kind. Your love's not passive, it's never disengaged, it's always present. It hangs on